yeah, now I want to take you to a faraway island. But again, for our panel with um, Dean and Dean Takahashi from VentureBeat, Timothy West from Unity, Aaron Lemke from The Wave, one of the co-founders, and Alice, who obviously you met earlier, who is hosting on her island. And yeah, I'm just super excited about hearing what they have to say. So I'll hand it over.
Welcome everyone to Virtual Beings Summit. I'm so excited to have you here for this Animal Crossing panel. Going from left to right, you've got Alice, Lloyd George, moderator. Oops, what is that? Oops. I don't know what that is, but that was my keyboard. Anyway, lots of blips in the metaverse. You've got Alice on the left, and then just to the right of me is Aaron Lemke from The Wave.
Hey guys.
Hi. Timothy West in the third seat. Nice to see you. And Dean Takahashi on the right.
Hello.
Hi. So great to have you guys here. Let me express some joy. Okay. So yeah, to kick off the panel, maybe you can just introduce yourselves briefly, and maybe one thing that you have seen recently or excited about in the metaverse. Maybe we'll start on the right. Dean, you can go first.
All right. I'm a lead writer for GamesBeat at VentureBeat and been covering tech in the Valley since 1994. And I've been covering games for about 24 years now. And, you know, I'm excited about Virtual Beings, I think, because it feels like the beginning of some new industry. And Edward Sachi is the person I've talked to the most about this topic, and he was telling me that startups in this space have raised $300 million to date. So that's pretty cool. Lots of interesting names involved in it. I am not a Virtual Beings entrepreneur, just writing about it, kind of like a tourist here. So that's me.
Okay. Thanks, Dean. And then Timothy, maybe you could tell us a bit about what you work on.
Sure, yeah. So I'm Tony West, Director of XR Tools at Unity. In terms of Virtual Beings, one of the biggest things that I've been thinking a lot about, and that's come up recently, is really sort of the role of both the participant and the audience in supporting the theme of the world. I mean, we talk about Unity as being a 3D engine and rendering tool, but I always consider it more of a world building tool, right? Like that is the great strengths of the 3D engines. They allow people to make these amazing worlds. Things like this game, it's made by another game engine, and it's yet another world that people are in. So as storytellers, or I think like even to expand the term beyond just storytelling, as world builders in which you could have many stories, how do you think of the audience as either being guests or participants in your world, or as actual, not just visitors, but actual living residents of your world, or even actors in your world? And there's a sliding scale all the way from Disneyland, where people are guests, to things like immersive theater, like Sleep No More, where people are sort of specters and maybe a little bit of a participant, to things like Secret Cinema, where people who go to that are truly like expected to be fully in character, in costume, active participants. So that's something I'm really interested in talking about right now. What are these shades of you as a participant, and the audience itself as they fit into the world?
Yeah, for sure. I think that interactivity is like quite an interesting question in all of this. And actually, probably Aaron is an expert on that as a co-founder of The Wave. He knows all about interactivity in these worlds. What do you think, Aaron?
Yeah, I'm Aaron, Chief Creative Officer and co-founder of Wave XR, and we throw virtual concerts inside of Unity. We broadcast them into VR and into all the various live streaming platforms. And we're really all about live interaction with virtual characters. So we use a motion capture suit, and we do face cap with an iPhone, and we bring our performers into the same world as our audience, and try to bridge that gap and let them interact through the internet.
You should mention John Legend.
And we just did a show with John Legend a couple of weeks ago, sponsored by People Magazine, and we created a virtual avatar for John Legend, and did a live stream concert on YouTube that was a charity for Free America. And so every donation that people gave actually showed up in the world in the 3D environment as a visual effect that John himself could see and could react to and comment on. And we put the top donors up on stage with him, and so in between songs he was sort of calling out the top donors and kind of conversing with the audience.
That is so fucking cool. Like
That is
everything
amazing.
about that, I love that it was so well thought through from end to end, not just sort of the audience participation, but then what John could see back.
Wasn't it like 500,000 people or something like that?
Yeah, 500,000 live. We
amazing.
raised about $20,000 for this charity in just under 20 minutes. So
Wow. Nice.
That's cool. Very cool.
I guess, like, to Timothy's point around like participation, what are your thoughts on that with Wave? And you've had different participation across different events. What have you kind of observed the difference between these events over time, or what participation and interactivity does in different settings?
yeah, I mean, it's ever evolving, right? Because we're always getting access to new technologies and new ways of doing these shows. But for the John Legend show, for instance, we have a giant screen in front of him that's showing the incoming chat messages and the incoming donations and the various representations of those donations in world. And so it's sort of we're trying to in some ways channel the same energy that a live performer feels when they're on stage looking out at the audience, and they can sort of see their crowd and gauge the energy of their crowd, and they can even focus in and call out certain people or ask them questions, depending on the type of performer it is. But it's really taking that model and that tried and true format of an audience giving energy to a performer, and that energy being reflected back to the audience from the performer. And we're taking that and we're trying to put our own spin on it.
One thing I've always been impressed by with the Wave is you have this persona, or you have this avatar that really fits in with the space. It's like, you know how you dress up to go to a concert? Like in the Wave, it was just there for you. You could just like instantly go and look cool. And there were also these sort of interactive things you could do, like, take different things to have different effects. I always feel like you really did such a great job of capturing the small things that make mass events or live events so special.
I
Yeah,
like how
well-
it's real time. Yeah, and you're just responding on the fly to somebody who just did something too, and the mo-capped person is really reacting to the audience.
It's not even real time, because I've given talks, and there's certain countries that don't give you feedback. If you've ever been to those countries, you give a talk and like where you're waiting for a pause or a chuckle or something, they're just kind of dead silent. So it's a sign of respect. It's like just the little like interactions, that you get when you're sitting there and you're like, oh, the song is at a break and I just want to look at something else for a minute, or, you know, like being able to kind of support the people where they are in that moment in this real space. That's what I love about it. I should say, I kind of do think we should have the video on because there's a little bit of too long of a pause here now. And I think if we had the video on, we'd be able to feed off each other's visuals. We don't have to turn them on. I'm just pointing it out. Being able to do that is like,
Yeah, we
it's
can
a
do that.
big thing.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Right.
There they are. Nice to see you all. Oh,
Hello.
ah, real world and virtual world blend.
Mhm.
And mine is not on. Anyway,
I mean, I'd like to say one thing. You know, one thing I like about Animal Crossing is that it feels like it's an accidental metaverse, right? And it's not the one we would have expected or bet on. That Nintendo might be the one that would come up with something. That I was looking at, like the social results on the Spike Trap for March, and you know, like Call of Duty Warzone was this gigantic hit, right? It's got 60 million downloads, but the social conversation that dominated on things like Twitter for Animal Crossing was like maybe 10 times the size of Warzone. It's just like people don't talk in Warzone; they just fight, right? But the
So
conversations I saw with Animal Crossing were just astounding. And, you know, it's like I didn't expect this to be a metaverse, right?
There's a lot more creativity. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that I think you're about to say what I was about to say. So go for it.
Yeah, there's just maybe that's why there's a lot more dialogue around this, because there's so much more creativity available in Animal Crossing, and it's about expression and kind of owning your own chunk of the world, and showing people what your idea of this world can be. And you know, in Warzone, about all the customization and expression you can do is just how cool your gun looks and how cool your soldier looks. So yeah, there's just a lot more room for creativity within Animal Crossing.
One thing that like really absolutely relates to that is the economies of scale. The economies scale so interestingly in Animal Crossing. So you join and you can't buy much because you don't have a lot of money. But one thing you can do is you can download each other's QR codes. To Aaron's point about creativity, like there are like millions of design patterns out there that are span back from like previous iterations of Animal Crossing, and you could do up your whole island and make it super cool just by that. Buy all the clothes you want, not even buy, you get them for free. You just have to laboriously port every single QR code, which just takes a lot of time, but you can do it. And then there's actually basically 3 different economies, even if you're gonna like pay for something, and you can use bells, you can use miles, or you can collect enough resources in order to make things. So like that's basically 4 economies. There's like the homebrew economy, there's the legit like money economy, there's the kind of quasi the equivalent of like literally like a airline miles economy, get free stuff, you know, if you collect enough miles, and then also like a credit card, and then also the like make it yourself, and that's nuts, and it all is balanced so perfectly. And you don't need to spend any real money in order to do well in Animal Crossing. So kudos to them. I mean, I love that too. The lack of
it's like
real
an economic system for everyone. Take your
Yes.
pick.
Yes.
I think
Well,
that was
I'm-
insight. Go ahead, Aaron.
I'm pretty new to Animal Crossing, and I was talking to my friend, one of our lead artists at Wave, about it the other day, and he was explaining to me kind of the basics, and then he said, "Yeah, but you know, look out for the turnip trade. Like, don't get sucked into the turnip trade, you know, unless you really want to." And I haven't, I don't know exactly what that means yet, but as far as I understand, there's some kind of like stock trading equivalent that can happen with turnips, and it's just like a whole other layer you can dig into if you want to.
But here's the thing: you can buy all the turnips in the world. You can be a billionaire in like straight up bells, right? But if you go into Alice's basement, she has some super sweet like space stuff that you can't buy. You have to find star fragments. You have to visit islands. You have to go when there's shooting stars at night, and then you can make it. and then you could kind of like go on Reddit maybe and like buy it from someone in a really weird way, but you wouldn't bother. It's like if you want to do gray market economies, you really have to go deep online. But I really love Animal Crossing for that, for being so balanced about it. So you could be the richest person in the world and you might not get the moonlight that you really want. You have to work for it.
I think that's yeah. I mean, I think that's the insight that like Riot and Fortnite had with League of Legends, and Epic had with Fortnite, and Riot had with League of Legends, is that you can't buy your way in, and so people really play and collect, but you can't really trade as much. The thing is, there's a lot of barter in Animal Crossing. Like a lot of my stuff, I traded, which to your point about resource, like depends what resources you start with. You usually start with one resource. Mine is cherry trees or cherries for whatever reason. Not that rare, but there's so much bartering, and I think like humans are very social and trade oriented animals, which is one reason I wonder why, maybe that's why Animal Crossing's done so well. Did any of you play the original game or see the original Animal Crossing game?
Yeah, I remember being, my niece was super into it at the time. This would have been the original Animal Crossing, and they're like, I got some mail from a neighbor, and I was like, this game is not for me.
Yeah.
Fast forward 15 years or whatever, I'm like, this game is super for me. Yay, I have mail.
Mail takes a long time. Just to get this chair in that I'm sitting on, which was a last minute addition, hence why it looks weird. I had to mail it to myself from the Nook store, and it took a day in between different panels. So that's why it looks like this.
It's very executive. You look amazing.
Not intentional. But yeah, I guess, and Dean, you've been covering so much of this for so long, and you say you're surprised by how well, Nintendo, like this, I think it shocked everyone at the beginning of lockdown, like just the timing was amazing.
It's funny how there's always like these intentional, platforms where somebody's really trying to build the metaverse, like Second Life or whatever, and they're inspired by Snow Crash or inspired by Ready Player One or whatever, and those worlds haven't really caught on, and they reach a certain niche audience and then don't really go mainstream, and so the metaverse heavy 3D world, Oasis, owned by one company, Metaverse, seems to have some pretty good competition these days from this sort of multiverse of metaverses that are all spread out across many different worlds. And Animal Crossing has just as much a shot as an accidental metaverse as the intentional ones, I think.
I think it should become as no surprise when when you go outside to any one given place, you change your outfit to kind of match what's going on there. You go to a party, you dress up in one way or another. Like it makes sense. We want to be these cute little adorable big-headed things in Animal Crossing. It makes sense for us. And then, you go play Fortnite and you're like this kind of elongated, cool-looking character with great hair, whatever it is. So it might just be talking about my character, but yeah, depends.
Well, yeah, I love that phrase, Dean, the accidental metaverse, because, Fortnite is just an accidental hit on, oh no, are we leaving the world here?
Someone accidentally left, but maybe it's a Wi-Fi issue.
Uh-oh. Oh, mine went to sleep. Uh-oh. Shoot, it might have been me. Shoot, yeah, it was me. I will make sure to keep mine on. Sorry about that.
Well, yeah, just that idea of like the accidental metaverse. Like, I don't think Epic was planning on executing what they ended up kind of executing. Like, they sort of stole this game design from PUBG, and they had this other game they were going to build, and they decided to pivot and build this kind of battle royale game, and then it became this huge thing.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like the more intentional metaverses, like Second Life, and those things you mentioned, like those are worlds where they're a little more open, and there isn't a core mechanic or a core thing that people can do. It's sort of like you can do all these things, And maybe that's part of what's so attractive to these users right now is like, a metaverse where you can do anything you want is a little overwhelming, but a game that has clear goals, that has elements of the metaverse that you can hook into, is a little easier to drop into for a casual user.
I'm so sorry. Does anybody remember the dodo code? Or else can you?
Oh yeah, if you pop out the way, Aaron, from the airport, you're out the front of the door, so I can just go into the airport. Just move, like, budge a little. Oh, I can push it. I didn't know I could do that. I'll just check the dodo code. But I think it's half the fun is like realizing, yeah, the gate's open. I'll just show you the code again.
I'll find you when I get there.
Make sure the metaverse has wider doors next time.
HTC5. It's a subliminal message from HTC. But anyway, I feel like we should just opportunistically use this moment to like maybe go fishing or something and continue the panel on the water. Let's see.
I do have a fishing rod. I don't have many items, but I do have a
I'm
fishing
not sure where my fishing rod is because I have emptied my pockets everywhere, but I should give a gift to all of you, especially Aaron, since he's new and poor to the Animal Crossing world.
So,
I have
by
no
the
money.
way,
I'm poor, Alice.
Yeah, you're very poor. You have still in a touch, right? I will give you a royal crown, which will buy your way to the next level.
that's a very generous gift.
But I guess, yeah, that, I mean, I feel like that's like the crux of like the whole giant question around all of this is, how do you get a sticky user base, right? Like, how do you start with something niche that people love, and then you buy their trust and they'll explore other parts of it, whether it's battle royale or sort of, concerts like Wave, and then once you've got that, you can expand from there.
I guess what I hope for is some kind of glue that will hold all these worlds together. I mean, I think a lot of people out there were hoping that blockchain and crypto would sort of provide the glue between worlds and make it so that you can take one avatar from one world to another and be all seamless. And some of that hasn't come to pass just yet. I don't know if it will, but that means I think that the whole industry or all the companies have to cooperate in order to make their worlds interoperable, I guess. And I don't know if that's going to happen.
It's kind of trivial too, which is kind of sad. I mean, it's easy to log in with one service with another service, and then everyone just keeps the account information on each of their. As long as you have kind of like a way of identifying a person across. There are security issues, by the way. This is not my area of expertise, but in terms of simply being able to transfer oneself from one to another world and feel like you're just hopping along, that aspect of taking yourself to other worlds is as simple as it is now. I open one browser and I'm in Gmail. I open up another browser and I'm in Twitter, or another browser I'm in Facebook, right?
We can finish the panel here so we have a nice ocean view. If you want to line up, I'll capture you where the map is there. It's tricky. You can't actually see, you can only spin inside, not outside. But oh, Aaron brought his fishing rod. Great.
My only item, guys.
Yeah, the glue seems to be the bajillion-dollar question. Like, where does that come from? If you own enough of the distribution, you think that means you end up owning the glue or the platform that connects them all, or like versus the early internet, which people thought would go that way.
Yeah, I mean, but in the early VR days, I really thought Steam VR was going to be this glue. Like, this is this platform that kind of runs underneath most VR apps, and they already allow you to kind of customize your personal space and you know, change different things about it. But I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, the other obvious bet to me is the engine that a lot of these games are built in, which is Unity. What do you think about that, Timothy?
I get that seems like an obvious answer. I think the reality is that thinking beyond sort of like any given tool or network or whatever, I think we have sort of an interesting kind of house of cards right now with digital goods in general, where we have VCs backing what they hope are very large bets, and for a very good reason that I don't think we talk about enough, which is that most VC funds come from things like people's pension and retirement funds. Like they're raising money not out of nowhere, but in hopes of getting like a very strong return on what effectively is people's lives. So I can't fault them for trying to go big. Like that's, you know, that's just kind of how it is. And so when it comes to what we now know of as like the largest indicator of success, which is activity, people tend to want to own that. Should that be the case for like how we actually build digital worlds, digital products? Like our lives are online, and there's a sense of transience associated with them, because there's a sense of we need to have these sort of this activity associated with it. So I think until that changes and we start to recognize that our digital lives and worlds are as much a part of us as like a digital photo has as much worth as a physical photo, and to lose either or both is still a loss to you in your life. We'll still kind of keep climbing for that activity indicator instead as a measure of success, which is too bad.
It's like socially right now during the the pandemic. I mean, it is kind of life saving. It's important to have the ability to socialize while we're stuck in our homes doing nothing, right? So I think it is very important that somebody figures this out and solves all the different things that have to be solved to make the metaverse possible. And I think of things like problems like translation. Like how do you take an avatar from a fantasy world and stick it into a science fiction world if that's what the person wants to do? That person can kind of have fun with the same avatar, traveling around to different worlds, but they kind of ruin the fantasy for everybody in the science fiction world if they show up as a Lord of the Rings character, right? So translation of your characters is something that has to happen too, right?
Yeah, I mean, once we're talking about who's going to own the metaverse, I mean, we're talking about network effects, right? And network effects are tricky business because typically, if you have the biggest one, it's easy to kind of keep that going. And so, as much as I would like for, what I think are kind of more well-intentioned companies like Valve or Unity to end up owning this, there's a good chance that's going to be, a Facebook or a Google or an Amazon even if they get their act together. So that does scare me a little bit. And just the power of network effects, it's like there's not a ton we can do about it. Even if you believe that the market will sort of sort these things out, digital networks are, like I said, it's a tricky beast, and it's really hard to change a big company when it has these really powerful network effects. Once it gets past a certain point, there's kind of no turning back.
Actually, Aaron, I have a question for you. In the Wave, did you ever experiment about how the user sees themselves versus how other people see them?
You mean having a different avatar for if you look at your own avatar in the mirror versus if someone else sees you?
Yeah.
No, but that's a very interesting idea. And I guess too, you have sort of your first person, your arms and things like the first person avatar. But no, we never experimented with having those be different than the way another user would perceive you in the scene.
I guess it makes sense because you're already dealing with the fact that this person has to kind of deal with the fact that they're now a glowy object in space instead, right? Yeah, that when it comes to like your avatar across various systems to create like that sort of glue between the metaverse, the fact is like anyone could look however, like when I traverse the internet, and which is just the metaverse in 2D, like when we all do, we're still the same person and we just maybe have different usernames or different avatars, but like we're still us, and we don't even think of that as a sort of digital dysmorphia, right? Like we're just like, oh, it's just me, that username wasn't available, or maybe it was, whatever. It doesn't really, it means very little to us. I have a theory the same would be true in any equivalent of the metaverse, that you could retain the avatar you feel most comfortable with, but then just kind of a skin for wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
I think we've gone a little over time, but I've just left some crowns here as gifts for you. If you would like a crown. Or
Thank
just
you very much.
over here.
That was the end of the time?
Well, it was supposed to be 25 minutes, I think.
Man, we could have got another hour, I feel like. We're just
Yeah,
getting into it.
definitely.
We were getting
I
started.
did have my crown though, thank
I
you.
love talking to you guys.
Yeah.
We should start a podcast, all four of us. Let's get it
Yeah.
going.
Let's do it.
Watch out,
So-
Gary. Yeah.
Oh, it's great. That is the #1 barter item. Yeah, these are all great questions, and I think we can get into them Wednesday, but we have this as recording as a backup, I guess,
Okay.
which Crystal stitched together. But yeah, thanks for doing it. I think that yeah, it's just good. You're all welcome to stay and go star shooting or star hunting. They should all, the shooting stars should appear up there in the top left.
Well, what's the shooting star
Basically-
about?
Oh yeah.
So if we come up here, it's probably like usually when you go to the edge, it's easier on like the edge of the island. You go here and then you press up on the right joystick, and so you just have a lot of sky in your field of view,
Oh, nice.
and you'll start to see shooting stars, which probably they start after like sunset, so around now. And when you see the shooting star, you press A, and on the next day on your beach, on your island, you'll find these little fragments around the coastline. And those are star fragments, and they're super valuable from each wish that you made, basically. So, should you be very invested, you're welcome to. I can keep my Animal Crossing on, but I'll probably jump off the. Yeah. But it's good to see you all. And yeah, this is good